G'day Newsy, I see you're being hypocritical again towards Tony Abbot. You accused him unjustly of organising a greedy woman being abused and harassed in the street. On what basis? On what proof? None whatsoever. That greenie turned up at an anti-carbon tax seminar and voiced her opinion. Well, fair enough. And she's allowed to do that. But later on, one of the persons that was at that meeting decided to harass her in the street. Now, is that up to Tony Abbot? No, it's not. He's not responsible for that. How can he be? And within the same week or a couple of days, you produced a videotape of an elderly man that was in a shopping centre that Tony Abbot addressed and said, "Good morning, sir, how are you?" And the man replied, "Dickhead." Isn't that a little bit hypocritical, Newsy, of you? Referred to that elderly man as your hero. Isn't that a little bit hypocritical? My way of thinking it is, Newsy. Now, you also claimed, and justifiably so, that 3 other politicians were abused that day. Yes, there was. Tony Abbot, he was one, by that greenie woman. Barnaby Joyce was abused by members of Get Up down in Newcastle, I believe it was. And Julia Gillard, on the day before or on that same day, was called a liar in the Fairfield shopping centre by 2 women. Mate, the anger's out there. And yet, you all want to see it just one way. And make hypocritical videos again. Well, I'll tell you, there's one way to avoid all this, Newsy, and we can finish it in 6 to 8 weeks' time. And that is for this federal government to call an election. The majority of Australians, up to 69 to 70% of Australians, are calling for a federal election. For the Gillard government to either produce a federal election so either party could win that election and have a mandate on carbon taxation or not. Simple. Not so hard to understand, is it? And a debate. Simple. Put up or shut up, right? But talking about Get Up, and I'll refer to them, they not only abused Barnaby Joyce, but they also abused other organisations in Australia by threatening boycotts. So-called 500,000 members who are going to boycott organisations in Australia that disagree with carbon taxation. What do you call that? Get Up members also rung the Brisbane Broncos Leagues Club, complaining about Lord Anthony Monckton speaking at the Brisbane Broncos Leagues Club, wanting to have that speech stopped. Mate, I call that an infringement of freedom of speech, mate. If you don't agree with what Lord Anthony Monckton says, by all means, you have a right to disagree. But don't try and stop other people from listening to Lord Anthony Monckton. You had the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Commission, and this is poor in-house keeping, mate, losing the videotape between a debate at the National Press Club between Lord Anthony Monckton and Richard Dennis. And they lost the videotape for retransmission. What? Mate, really? Is this good housekeeping or what? And the noise you can hear in the background is my daughter sneaking in and out the kitchen. Sorry about that. But, mate, stop being hypocritical, mate. It's as simple as that. And you know, one of the reasons how we can fix all this, a good way of fixing all this, mate, easy, simple. For Julia Gillard to listen to 70% of Australians who are calling for a federal election. And we, the Australian taxpayers and voters, you and me, and thousands of other Australians, can have a voice on saying yes or no towards carbon taxation. Simple. Shouldn't we have a voice on how we're going to be taxed or not? Easy. We're asking for a federal election. What are you so scared of, mate? Listen, I tell you what, I've heard Bunnings recently is having a sale on concrete, on cement. Why don't you go down to Bunnings with Julia Gillard and all your other mates who favour carbon taxation and each get a spoonful of cement and take it and harden up a bit, mate, and call a federal election. And we, as Australian voters and taxpayers, will decide on this issue. Simple, mate. And I heard yesterday on Sky News that by Monday of next week, the 25th of July, the Malaysian solution is supposed to be signed and sealed and delivered. And 800 asylum seekers are going to go to Malaysia to a country that is not a signatory to the UNHCR. And if you didn't know anything about Malaysia, usually they cane asylum seekers in that country with the rattan, and they're known to do it. And Julia Gillard, whilst in opposition, complained about the Howard government with the Pacific solution in Nauru. I don't recall people in Nauru and asylum seekers being caned in Nauru with the rattan. Don't know about it whatsoever or recall hearing about it. But now we've got 800 potential asylum seekers who could be potentially caned in Malaysia with the rattan. And this is their answer. Policies on the run, mate. And even the Greens don't agree with that one either, mate. I'd have to remark about that one. They're not happy about it. But really, mate, aren't you being a little bit hypocritical again? Yeah. Illogical hatred of Tony Abbot leads you to be a hypocrite again. Even I don't hate Julia Gillard to that extent and make illogical statements like you do. Sorry, mate. Bye.